Welcome to Arcadian. In this channel, I have a series for players dedicated to teaching how to play D&D and a series for DMs with advice to run better games. This time, I'll mix the two and give advice on how to play better games to players. Lesson number 1, ditch the tragic backstories. More often than not, you improve your character by ditching the tragic backstory trope. I don't have anything against tragic backstories, I played my share. A traumatized character can be very fun to play occasionally, it's just that we can do better most of the times, especially since tragic backstories tend to be the norm. Because we do see a lot of characters with a tragic, traumatizing past. The orphan who lost their parents to dragons, the runaway from an abusing family, the orphan rogue raised by the Thieves Guild, the renegade who was exiled after killing their best friend, all that jazz. This happens because a tragic past is an easy motivator, one that you can come up with quickly on the fly as an effective way to justify why your character is an adventurer. The character has nothing to lose and everything to prove, up and ready to go fight some dragons and other suicidal stuff. It also doesn't help that the trope is so abused in pop culture, especially in stories which follow the hero's journey and the Lost Prince models. I'm talking about Batman, Luke Skywalker, Naruto, Vin, you name it. When we're used to see all these heroes portrayed so well in epic and inspiring stories, it's only natural that we want to emulate that in an RPG. But also, a tragic backstory usually comes with no baggage. A tragic orphan with no parents, no friends, no attachments basically, is a character that won't be weighted down by anything. They'll have no one to disappoint with their actions, no place to return to, no responsibilities, no strings attached, which can seem appealing for a player, especially for a new one. This is one of the main reasons I try to encourage my players to grow out of the tragic backstory mold. No responsibility or attachments may seem enticing, but to me, it translates as no stakes, nothing to fight for. Again, I don't mean that it's wrong to play tragic backstories, or even that they're not good. There are positive points to them. After all, we wouldn't see as many if they didn't work. A tragic past is a great way with which to frame a character and form a quick sympathetic bond with them. Also, we can't dismiss this argument. It's cool. Sometimes it's simply fun to play a deeply scarred and broken character. On top of that, people often say that non-traumatized people don't go adventuring, and while I don't fully agree with that statement, I can understand its logic. People who are happy with their lives and don't desire anything else have little to no motivation to go adventuring, which is why, according to the lore, there aren't many halfling adventurers. Normally, a hero only goes adventuring when triggered by events that completely change their way of life or perception of the world. This disruption of the status quo in their equilibrium is what in storytelling we call the inciting incident, the moment that ignites the story and kickstarts the protagonist's transformative journey. Luke would have never left Tatooine and would have lived his entire life as a farmer if his family wasn't killed. It's his tragic past, even if somewhat recent, that puts the plot in motion. The thing is, there are problems with this kind of trope when they're used in RPGs like D&D. The most obvious one is that it's a very overused trope, especially the dead parents cliché. The trope itself isn't bad, but because it's so ubiquitous, it becomes boring and most of all predictable, not only to the other players, which may cause them to lose interest on your character, but even to yourself. The fact that so many players build heroes with tragic backstories is also related to the second problem. It can lead to monotonous parties. Even at a smaller scale, a player wants their character to shine, to take the spotlight, to stand out in any way or in any given moment. However, when the whole party basically has the same backstory, only with different details, each character tends to become more muted, and their arcs feel less personal. There's less to distinguish them, and as such, they almost lose part of their personalities. Sometimes this even generates tension among the players, since some don't take too kindly to writing a tragic character, but finding out they're not the most tragic character at the table. Worst case scenario, it can lead to outright tragedy competitions to find out who's the most traumatized, very Deadpool-like. That is a bit extreme, but my point is that since these backstories tend to be rather similar, they blend together and cancel each other out. They normalize the tragedy, therefore detracting from it. To put it in more graphical terms, if this is the normal level of tragedy in a backstory and this is our tragic character, it stands out. However, if every single character is at this level, this becomes the new baseline and doesn't feel as tragic. To quote a wise supervillain, when everyone is tragic,
No one will be.
But the main problem I see with tragic backstories is that the most interesting part of them, the defining moment in that character's life, the event that created them and sculpted them into what they are today, happens off screen. And that just seems like a waste. This is why tragic backstories work so well in books, comics, and movies, but not so well in D&D. You don't get to experience that defining moment, not even in a flashback. For example, I love One Piece, and almost every single character in that damned crew has a sad and tragic backstory. Chopper and Robin in specific make me cry like a river every time I watch those episodes again. But it works. You get to see those moments after you got to know the character, and that only serves to reinforce your affection for them. In D&D, however, not only you don't usually experience the characters' backstories, but they are often used as a way to justify who the character is today, not to build upon what was already established to make them more relatable. They just have different purposes. Even worse, many tragic backstories are so closed onto themselves that they don't even serve as material for the DM to pick and intertwine with the campaign. Revenge stories are easy. The DM can just make whoever hurt the character an enemy. But what about those characters who made a mistake and caused someone to die and now live drowned in guilt? What about the character who lost their family to disease? What about the revenge story where the character already claimed their revenge? It's not impossible for a skilled DM to use elements of such stories, but not everyone may be willing to go that extra mile. It may be just simply too far-fetched. In some cases, the player never even considered to write a backstory that the DM could use as material. Another reason why this is a problem is because the stakes in most tragedy backstories tend to lie in the past. There is nothing left to save or achieve, nothing that can still be of impact to that story. At most, there's some solace to be gained. The backstory is closed and only serves to inform where the character is now, not where they could still go. Is what I'm saying making sense to you? If it is, please consider liking this video so other people can find it too more easily. Thank you so much, you're awesome. So, how to solve all these issues with this trope? If the tragic backstory's main problem is that the most defining moment of that character's life happened off screen and the players didn't get to play it, a better backstory would be one designed to provide those same pivotal moments, but have them happen in the game. For example, imagine your character's backstory was something like, a dragon killed my parents and now I wander the world hoping to one day slay that monster and claim my vengeance. That is good, but what if the dragon didn't kill your character's parents yet, but somehow you discovered it was going to attack your village? Now you get to be active instead of passive and truly live through your character's backstory. And what's better, the other players can be a part of that too. The same outcome can still happen and you can end up with the same tragic character, but the stakes are in the present, not in the past. Your character won't be fighting to avenge, but to save, and I can promise that story will have a bigger impact and offer you a deeper game experience. And because the course of that plot will be dictated by the player's actions, it will also feel less cliché and more self-driven. Besides, you will be leaving it up to the dice. I really do believe that D&D is all about discovering where the story will go, as opposed to reciting a book whose ending is already known. Bear in mind that the exception confirms the rule, and even though I just spent 10 minutes listing the biggest downsides of tragic backstories, that doesn't mean you shouldn't play them. It can still be very interesting to explore the psyche of a character so damaged, but that's when it's done with intention, which is not usually the case. Just bear in mind that variety is the perfect predator of boredom, and there are many alternatives to play your stereotypical tragic character, from incorporating that tragic plot into the game to exploring literally any other character motivation. Not all adventurers hit the road because of guilt or trauma. Some are questing to prove themselves. Others have secrets to discover. Some are trying to solve a mystery, while others are simply enjoying the breath of freedom on the road. If you want more examples of non-tragic backstories, just look around. Pop culture and the internet is full of them. That's it for the video, but remember how a while ago I was talking about how tragic backstories place the stakes in the past? Well, if you want to chase that train of thought, the next video here will discuss how to create more interesting characters instantly by adding stakes the DM can use to spice up the narrative. Also, feel free to browse my playlist of DM tips. I'm sure you'll find something interesting somewhere around there. Thank you for watching. I'm the first Arcadian, and nothing is impossible for a man with a skull flag.